There was a time in my life when being alone felt like a punishment. I hated the silence, the emptiness, the feeling that I was invisible in a world that kept moving without me. I would sit in my room, scrolling endlessly through my phone, watching other people live their lives, hanging out with friends, laughing, going on adventures. And I would wonder, why don't I have that? Why did I feel so disconnected? Why did it seem like everyone else had people to turn to, but I was stuck in my own little world? I told myself that if I wasn't surrounded by people, something was wrong with me. That loneliness meant I was failing at life. But what if I told you that's a lie? What if everything we've been told about being alone is completely wrong? We live in a world that glorifies connection. Every movie, every song, every ad tells us that happiness comes from being surrounded by people. If you're alone, something must be missing. But is that really true? Think back to your childhood. Remember those times when you could play alone for hours, lost in your own little world, completely content. Back then, being lonely wasn't scary. It was natural. It was peaceful. Somewhere along the way, we were taught that being alone is something to be fixed, that if we're not constantly engaged with others, we're not really living. So we run. We fill our lives with noise, mindless scrolling, jumping from one social event to another, keeping the TV on in the background just so we don't have to sit with the silence. Because deep down, we're afraid of what we might hear if we actually listen. One day, I decided to stop distracting myself. I turned off the music, put my phone away, and just sat with myself. At first, it was uncomfortable. I felt restless, like I needed to do something, like I needed to escape. But the longer I sat there, the more I realized something. I wasn't really afraid of being alone. I was afraid of facing myself. I was afraid of my own thoughts, afraid of my regrets, afraid of all the things I'd been avoiding. But facing them was the only way to grow. Loneliness isn't a prison. It's a canvas, a space where you can create, reflect, understand yourself on a deeper level. It's where the strongest people are built. It's where some of the greatest minds in history found their genius. Da Vinci created alone. Tesla dreamed alone. Writers, philosophers, inventors. Many of them needed solitude to tap into their best ideas. Maybe being alone isn't a weakness. Maybe it's a superpower. This is what being alone teaches you. Self-love, because when you strip away the noise, you realize your worth was never tied to other people. You were enough all along. When you enjoy your own company, you stop needing validation from others. You no longer define yourself by who is or isn't in your life. And that is powerful. You stop settling for fake connections. Something incredible happens when you learn to be alone. You stop tolerating people who drain you. You no longer settle for fake friendships. You stop forcing conversations just to fill the silence. Because when you're happy by yourself, you become selective about who you let into your life. You choose quality over quantity. This is when you realize it's better to have no company than the wrong company. You become more creative and productive. Loneliness gives you focus. Without constant distractions, your mind opens up. You start new projects. Rediscover passions. Actually make progress on your dreams. You don't need constant validation. You don't need to fill every moment with people and noise. You don't need someone to tell you what to do, how to feel, or who to be. Because you already know. Deep down, you always have. I used to fear solitude. Now I embrace it. Because I've learned that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means being free. Free to think, free to grow, free to just be. And there's a kind of peace in that. If you're struggling with loneliness, I want you to remember this. Being alone is not a curse. It's a gift, a time for transformation, a time to build yourself into the person you were meant to be. The strongest, most powerful version of you is waiting on the other side of loneliness.